Well, there are lapses of judgment, and then there are failures so grave, so wilfully blind that they strike at the integrity of public office itself. The suspension of Lord Richard Dannatt and Lord David Evans belongs firmly in the latter category. It's a disgrace. And all the more so because these are men who ought to have understood precisely what they were doing. They're not naives. They're not parliamentary newcomers dazzled by the glamour of Westminster. One was a former chief of staff, the other a peer of nearly 3 decades standing. Both have enjoyed long careers predicated on the idea of duty, service, and responsibility, and yet both allowed themselves to slip into conduct that corrodes trust at the very foundation. The charge sheet is not abstract, it's painfully specific. Lord Dannatt was found to have shown a clear willingness to provide parliamentary services for personal or commercial gain. Undercover journalists were told he could secure introductions to ministers, that he knew the corridors, that he knew whom to approach, and that he was willing to act as a conduit, not just, as he put it, pro bono. When presented with suggested day rates, he recognised them. That's not inadvertence, that's intent. And worse, 3 further cases later emerged in which he corresponded with ministers, the Home Office, diplomatic missions, senior officials on behalf of companies in which he held financial interests. UK Nitrogen, Teledyne UK, Blue International Holdings. In 2 of these instances, he even attended meetings with ministers or senior diplomats as a representative of those firms. The Commissioner was emphatic. Registration of interests is not a shield. Declaring these interests doesn't magically absolve one of improper conduct. Transparency is not an indulgence, it's a minimum expectation. Lord Evans of Watford, meanwhile, drifted dangerously close to the archetype of the cash for access merchant. He offered introductions to MPs as part of a commercial negotiation for his son's company, in which he himself still held a third of the shares. He sponsored events in the Lords for that same company. He invited colleagues to speak at those events. Tickets were sold at above the permitted cost. A rolling breach, not a single misstep, but a pattern of behaviour that revealed quite starkly a peer who didn't understand or didn't wish to understand the boundaries of his office. These are not trivialities. The Commissioner's language was unusually direct. Failure to act on personal honour, a striking phrase. The Lord's Code is built almost entirely on that notion that peers liberated from electoral pressure and party machines will uphold standards because their word, their reputation, and their honour demand it. It's an old-fashioned premise, and some would say an outdated one, but it is the constitutional glue holding together an unelected chamber. And when individuals of the calibre of Dannatt and Evans breach that principle, the damage is profound. For Lord Dannatt, the humiliation is particularly pointed. This was once the nation's most senior soldier, a man who commanded tens of thousands, a figure routinely presented as a steward of integrity and backbone. And when someone like that fails to grasp or refuses to grasp the difference between public duty and private commercial interest, the public quite reasonably asks, what hope is there for the rest? His attempt to frame the lobbying as an act of national interest is quite frankly flimsy. National interest cannot be invoked as a fig leaf for unregulated influence. Parliament exists to protect that national influence, that national interest, not to be used as an instrument for private concerns. The Commissioner's judgment cut through all that rhetoric, all that rubbish. Good intentions do not justify breaches of the code, and Lord Evans' protestations are no stronger. The claim that he didn't recall holding shares in the company he was actively promoting is not a defence worthy of a parliamentarian. If anything, it reveals something even worse, a casual disregard for the basic duties of disclosure and oversight. To shrug and say, I didn't know, when one's son is selling tickets for parliamentary events at inflated rates, only compounds the offence. Both peers have accepted their sanctions, they've expressed regret, but remorse cannot mask the deeper issue that their cases illuminate, a culture of complacency in the Lords. Time and again, the Conduct Committee finds that peers didn't understand the rules, had not reflected on their responsibilities, or believed their conduct was harmless because it was dressed up as service. It's not good enough. Ignorance cannot coexist with privilege. If one cannot understand the rule book, one shouldn't serve in the legislature. There is, of course, a broader political backdrop. The Lords is an institution already under scrutiny, with public support ebbing and questions about legitimacy growing louder. Every scandal accelerates calls for reform. Labour once promised abolition. Now it promises review. Moments like this remind us why reform is not merely cosmetic but essential. A chamber built on the expectation of honour must be populated by individuals who can sustain that expectation, and here lies the bitter truth. Lord Danett and Lord Evans should have known better. That's what makes this so damaging, when seasoned public servants with decades of experience cannot adhere to the simplest, most fundamental principles of public life. They don't merely fail themselves, they fail the institution they serve. They fail the public who trust them, and they weaken the already fragile case for maintaining the House of Lords in its current form. We can accept that human beings err, we can even accept that seasoned figures make mistakes, but we cannot accept, or we should never accept, that those entrusted with the stewardship of the state treat their office as a networking asset or a commercial lever. It's unworthy, it's corrosive, and it cannot go unchallenged. The Conduct Committee acted rightly, the Guardian's investigative work was necessary and justified, and the lesson must be plain. Personal honour is not a decorative phrase in the Code of Conduct, it's a central requirement of public life. Those that cannot uphold it shouldn't sit in the legislature, and those who breach it, especially repeatedly, deserve the full weight of the sanction. 2 peers, 2 suspensions, 1 simple truth. The days of blithe entitlement are over. The House of Lords must hold itself to higher standards, and those who fall short must face the consequences that are not simply symbolic but structural. If Danett and Evans are the catalyst of that long-delayed reckoning, their disgrace may yet serve a purpose.